I'd say I felt that sense of freedom when I started making more adult money.
It's also a good way to pay for the trip with money you already have instead of going into debt for it, right? Some of the best travel cards out there will give you like 50 to 100,000 points as a welcome bonus when you get them. But travel points actually tend to be worth more than cash back. So that's my biggest money tip for young people that I wish I had known in my early 20s.
I think it's one of the hottest travel tips that has really helped us be able to travel more. Today's guest is the girl who knows how to get you to your dream destination without wrecking your credit score. She's a certified credit counselor and senior writer at Bankrate, known for breaking down credit cards, points, miles, and travel perks in a way that actually makes sense. Her expert advice has been featured in Business Insider, USA Today, Fidelity Investments, Yahoo Finance, and more. So if you've ever wondered how people are flying business class on an economy budget, she's probably the reason. Here to help us travel smarter, earn points like pros, and stop leaving free flights on the table, Katie Kelton, welcome to Wellness Big Sis, the pod. In our 20s and 30s, I feel like the world sort of opens up to us. I know a lot of girls and guys in general felt more freedom once they got their driver's license. They went from not having their driver's license and relying on someone else to transport them to now all of a sudden having their driver's license. And I know a lot of people felt that sense of freedom with that stage of life. I'd say I felt that sense of freedom when I started making more adult money and realized that my adult money could actually help me to travel the world, and I could spend that adult money on things like travel and exploring new countries. So I know a lot of girls, especially in their 20s and 30s, who have maybe graduated college or grad school and are starting that transition into real adulthood, are wanting to travel and experience new things. So what are some ways that we can align our mindsets, our finances, if travel is a priority for us in 2026?
Yeah, I totally agree. When I was young, the first thing I wanted to do with my first paycheck was just like go to Rome and go to Northern Ireland. And it is so empowering. But I also made some mistakes when I did those trips. I spent way more than I need to. I didn't know about the resources available to me now. So I think a great place to start would be to figure out what kind of trip you'd like to go on, because there are a million gazillion factors to this. One of the biggest ones being, how much money do you want to spend? Because the touristy Instagram places, if you do it the whole way with the resort and the flight and all that, like peak season, it's going to be so expensive. So I would start by figuring out how much money you want to spend. You can figure out, do I want to be warm? Do I want to hike? Do I want to visit a friend? Like there are so many different ways to do it. And then, of course, there are like tried and true tips for saving money, which are to travel during the off season, to do as the locals do, which is like taking public transit and cooking when you can. And Airbnb experiences can be a really cool way to have an experience without spending as much money. So anyway, figuring out the kind of trip you want to go on. And then what I would do is set up a separate account and start putting your money in there. My fiance and I Airbnb a couple rooms out of our house, and we funnel all of those pay cuts directly into our travel account because that's what we want to use it for. If you have a side gig, maybe you put your money in there. If not, you can also just set up a transfer or put a certain amount of money in there every month, because then you get to watch it grow and you can start dreaming about where you're going to go with the money that's already in that account. It's also a good way to pay for the trip with money you already have instead of going into debt for it, right? Because then you'll end up paying interest. It just adds to the cost of a trip with no value added.
I don't know how prevalent the Cheesecake Factory is around the nation or around the globe, but the Cheesecake Factory menu, it's a restaurant. It's like so many pages and it can be decision overload. And I felt the same way with travel. So I actually think your tip to actually think about the experience that you want, because you see these beautiful destinations and a lot of the time you see the influencers and all of these travel content creators going to these destinations and you're like, I want that experience. And part of it is they're probably getting paid for some of it, or they're getting gifted some of these stays. But the world is so big. And when I had no criteria on how to narrow that down, I don't have to travel during a certain time of year because of kids or school. My job allows me to travel during the off seasons. There's different parts of the world that I want to travel to, and I haven't been to so many places that it felt to me like the Cheesecake Factory menu, where there were so many decisions to be made, so many places to go, and it was overwhelming. So I actually think that that first tip would have been super helpful for me to be like, what experience do you want? Rather than just like all of the shiny things that I saw when it came to travel. So, knowing we both have a few regrets when it came to how we traveled early on, what are some of those things that you wish you knew when it came to travel?
When I became a credit cards writer, ironically, I learned so much about how to help myself in my personal life when it comes to taking advantage of like free credit card stuff. And I say this with the caveat that you need to be a responsible credit user. Like, don't carry a balance. I don't want you to ruin your credit score for this. But for example, some of the best travel cards out there will give you like 50 to 100,000 points as a welcome bonus when you get them. And you have to reach them by spending like $4,000 in 3 months, which kind of sounds like a lot. But if you look at your budget, it's usually pretty achievable, or you can time it with a big purchase. So I use these welcome bonuses to pay for my trips. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, my fiance and I are planning a wedding. We're going to want to go on a honeymoon. I just applied for one of these cards. I'm going to use it to pay for some of the down payments on my wedding stuff, earn the welcome bonus, which right now is, I'll even tell you, it's Capital One's Venture Card. They're having a boosted welcome bonus right now. So you get 75,000 points and you get a $250 Capital One travel credit. And when you get that by spending $4,000, like, that is going to pay for our honeymoon flights. That will pay for one of our hotel nights, you know? And otherwise, like in my early 20s, ironically, I had less money. I was paying for all of this out of pocket because I didn't know. And so anyway, that's my advice, is to explore credit cards with welcome bonuses. And then use a travel credit card for all your other stuff too. At Bankrate, I have statistically found that people prefer cashback cards. I genuinely think it's just easier to understand. You get this much dollar for this much spend. But travel points actually tend to be worth more than cashback. And it's so much more rewarding to pay for a flight than to get like money back as a statement credit on your card. So use your travel card to pay for groceries, to pay for your essentials, and then you can use that stash of points to pay for your trips. So that's my biggest money tip for young people that I wish I had known in my early 20s. And other tips would be to do things like travel during the off season, live like a local, save your money, and do things like that.
I think that is definitely one of the things that I did not understand early on. And luckily, my husband did understand that and he sort of forced it on me, where the benefits of credit cards and travel points. And just like a silly little side note, when we first got married, he gave me probably 5 or 6 credit cards. And he was like, Kelsey, I need you to use this for gas. I need you to use this for retail purchases, this for groceries. And I was like, I need this spreadsheet. Why do I have to use certain credit cards for certain things? And I didn't understand that he was trying to maximize the points and the percent back that we got with those points until we booked our first trip to Europe. And he's like, yeah, I booked it all on points. It actually didn't come out of our account. And my jaw was on the floor. I was like, this is why it mattered where I spent it. And I don't think you have to get that intense at all. He just tracks it. And I think it helped to have him track that, because I was completely lost, because some of it would also change every 3 months, where he'd be like, okay, now use this card for groceries and this card for gas. And I was just like, I was laughing about it because I didn't understand the benefits of it. And then when I finally saw the payoff of, we didn't have to spend on flights for our Europe trip, exactly as you said, for your honeymoon, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is really awesome that our family spending is paying for that trip. And he luckily has educated me on this a little bit more. But knowing that if I spend $1 here, or if the cashback rate is $1 and you get $1, but if you transfer that to a flight or a hotel, that $1 might turn into $3 if you use it for travel in some way. So there are just some cool tips and tricks that is probably one of my biggest regrets, is not fully understanding that whole system before, because it does make travel so much better.
Yeah, I feel like my fiance feels the same way that you felt, because I am always like, okay, now we're using this card. Or like last year, I made him apply for the Southwest credit card because they were giving away a year's worth of a companion pass. And I was like, babe, think of all the places we can go. I'll fly for free so we can just pay for one flight, you know? And it's true. Once you get into it, it helps if at least one person knows how to do it, and then the other person will appreciate it once they realize like, oh, we're not actually paying for flights. Like it's an amazing perk.
I call it free money, and he does not like that because he also knows that it's a one-to-one. He's like, no, we could also get this in cash, Kelsey. It's not technically free money, but I still look at it as free money because I'm like, hey, it's not coming, I'm not having to take it out of the account that I see the money, and it's the way that I view
Girl
it.
math.
I'm girl mathing it.
It is free.
Yes, thank you. And he sees it a little more logically, which again, it helps, but it's one of those things that I do wish I knew earlier. Do you have any other favorite travel credit cards or different things if people want to fly domestically versus internationally, or how they prefer to experience a certain destination?
Sure. My favorite travel card of all time that I use like daily, I've already cashed in the welcome bonus, but I use it for my regular spending, is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. It gets good rewards on everyday stuff like dining and drugstores. And then I just accrue a stash of points that I can use with Chase. And then I mentioned for my wedding, we're going to use the Capital One Venture card. Another reason I like these is because the annual fee is under $100, and I can justify that for an entire year of spending and rewards. Some of these premium cards get into like the $800 fee. Kudos if you can maximize all the perks and rewards. That is not in my budget, and so I don't use those cards. But if you have a preferred bank, a lot of banks offer a version of that mid-tier travel card. Amex, Citi, Discover. Look and see what's available where you currently land. For domestic flights, I also think there is a lot of merit to airline branded cards like Southwest. For example, I fly Southwest a lot because I live in the Southwest. I have the card. I like the perks. You get free check bags with the card, you get free Wi-Fi with the card, and you can accrue points for Southwest specifically. And there's a version of that for most airlines. You can also look, and this is getting in the weeds here. I would say if the listener does not want to do all this, I completely understand. But there are something called transfer partners, which you alluded to earlier. And some airlines partner with card issuers so that when you transfer points from the card to your loyalty program with that airline, they're actually worth more. So if you do have a beloved airline, an alternate route to getting a co-branded card would be to check and see which lender they are a transfer partner with. That way you can earn points with that card, directly transfer them to your favorite airline, and you might get even more bang for your buck.
You explained that a lot more beautifully than I did, because I was like, I hope people understand what I'm saying. But that really has been how we've been able to maximize and get, I guess, more money, more girl math, more money for our money. I told my sister recently about the honeymoon. She's also getting married this year and looking for honeymoon. So I told her exactly about, hey, y'all should look into some of these credit cards to get some of those welcome bonuses, because $2,000 here on flowers, and then, $4,000 here on catering. And I know some people are probably eye rolling at those prices out on both extremes. Like, wow, that's so cheap, or wow, that's so expensive. But it's those bigger purchases, like you said, getting that credit card to get those bonuses to be able to girl math it and get free flights or hotels later on too. I think it's one of the hottest travel tips that has really helped us be able to travel more since we've been married, because he understood that. And like you said, having one partner that understands that and the other one will maybe catch up once they see the benefits from it. I think it'd be cool if it was all the girls here that were like, no, this is how we can get, free money for our partners or our trips together as a couple. I think that's awesome.
Totally. And if you're single and you just want to travel, like fund your lifestyle with points. I fully support that. You're going to spend the money anyway, so you might as well get something for it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting travel with us. I think you explain things so beautifully, and I know we're only just scratching the surface. So if people want more resources for travel and travel credit cards, I will leave the link to Katie's articles and posts below for you guys to go back into and just like look and see. I also think this can be confusing, and some of the terminology can be very confusing, but I actually think AI is a really good use for this, where if you hear us say certain phrases or certain things that you don't understand, I know I have done it for financial emails that I get or travel credit card emails or posts that I get sent in my newsletter. I'm like, I have no idea what this means. AI, can you explain it to me like I am in kindergarten? And that way they can just help you define it. Chat can help you understand what we mean, even if the larger words and terminology and more financial words and terminology might not make that much sense to you right now. So I think AI is a good use for this too, because this really is a super key travel hack that a lot of people don't know about.
Of course. AI is also really good at math. And if you're thinking about interest and you want to know how much you're accruing, how much you'll pay, how much should I be putting in my account using interest, AI is way better at figuring that out than I would ever be. So you can use it that way too.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on, chatting travel with us. And I hope you guys learned a lot from Katie. I'll leave again all those links and resources below. And I'll see you guys again on the next episode of Wellness Big Sis the Pod.
Thanks, Kelsey. So fun.